Common Filth Radio, episode 38. Tumbleristas Raw, volume 2 is out on my Bandcamp page, commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. $3 or more gets you over 40 minutes of new Tumbleristas episodes. The 40 plus minutes are spread across 12 episodes, and many of you have already bought it, and for that I thank you very much. And now to promote somebody other than myself, I have the SoundCloud link below to the music you just heard by Supermain. And you can find more music by Supermain at soundcloud.com/hello_fam. I would like to start off this week by talking about one of my favorite movies, and it's called Hood Life Volume 3. You can look it up on YouTube, I believe. The last time I checked, which was a couple of months ago, the full movie was on YouTube. It's not a terribly long movie. It's only about an hour, a little more than an hour, and I don't think you're going to get a more genuine look of what life in the ghetto looks like. What makes this movie unique is that it is filmed through the perspective of no one else other than the people that live in this location. And where the movie takes place is in West Palm Beach, Florida. And its location has some significance that I'm going to get to in a little bit. But I really want to first stress the importance of who this movie is made by. Because if you go to any film studies program at any university that offers it, you take the classes in the program, inevitably you will take a multicultural film class, where they tell you, oh, we're going to watch movies that take place outside of the colonial gaze of Hollywood. The quote-unquote white people that colonize the world's imagination. Except that these colonizers don't celebrate Christmas. But that's another point for another time. These colonizers can be found in Chinese restaurants at Christmas time. So the people that treat film as an academic subject, whether they are in the academic environment or not, they blame the wrong people on colonizing and polluting the world's imagination. But ironically, the films that they show you are films that still hold the stuff white people like worldview, the white liberal urbanite worldview. All of these films that these bookish academic types recommend to you, they all involve the oppressor-oppressed worldview. They inevitably involve some evil religious figure or some evil right-wing government trying to suppress youthful rebellion, kids that just want to do good for the world. The message is rather similar across these films, despite the fact that they're all from different countries of origin, whether black, brown, or yellow. But Hood Life Volume 3, it has no message. It is not made by white people. It is not made with white, liberal, urbanite sensibilities. And it is for this reason why it is one of my favorite movies. It is pure sensory terrorism from start to finish. And there is no possible way that anyone watching the movie can say, white people made them do this. White people oppressed them into making this movie. There's one light-skinned person in it, and I don't mean a light-skinned black, I mean a light-skinned person as in a white person or Hispanic, and he's in front of the camera. He's not behind it. He's holding the same guns, the same wads of cash that the rest of the black guys around him are. This movie was made in America, but it might as well be a foreign film. What the cameras capture in Hood Life Volume 3, I'm not familiar with any of it, even though it takes place technically in the United States of America. Again, specifically, West Palm Beach, Florida. So let's take a look at the demographics of West Palm Beach to confirm that what Hood Life Volume 3 shows is indicative of life in West Palm Beach as of 2010, the 2010 census. White or Caucasian, including white Hispanic, 56.7%. Alright, we'll fuck off with that because a lot of Hispanics, a lot of mestizos label themselves as that. Non-Hispanic, white, or Caucasian, 41.6%. Probably more indicative of the true makeup of this location. Black or African American, 32.5%. Hispanic or Latino of any race, 22.6%. And Two or more races, multiracial, 2.7%. I think it would be safe to assume that most of those multiracial people are half black, with the other half being white or mestizo. Regardless of what the other half is, the culture, right or wrong, would see them as black. They would discard the other side. Okay, so given that it is quite likely that the 2.7% of multiracial people are black and something else, we'll do the math on that. 1 second. So what do we got? 32.5% plus the 2.7%. So we're looking at 35.2% black population in West Palm Beach, Florida. So that would make West Palm Beach, Florida disproportionately black relative to the entire U.S. population. The U.S. population that is black is 13.2%, not counting multiracial people who would probably identify as black. So what point am I trying to make here? I'm not quite sure yet, but I figured this would be a good time to address this because there is a connection between what I just talked about and what I am about to talk about. You know what else West Palm Beach, Florida is famous for other than Hood Life Volume 3? The most honest look into life in the ghetto, the hardcore ghetto that there is. West Palm Beach, Florida is the home of Stormfront. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you know what Stormfront is. If not, you can go check out what the SPLC has to say about them. But I mention this because Thursday night I went out to dinner, and my party was seated adjacent to a birthday gathering. Now, apparently, I said this last week, life is not a Coke commercial, or any other commercial for that matter. You're generally not going to find a perfectly mixed group of people smiling and drinking sugary beverages. People generally stick to their own kind, and there is nothing wrong with that. However, if you are a single, middle-class woman of a certain age, life apparently is a Coke commercial. I do live in California, where we are basically Brazil, except we have less water. So there's a group of girls at this restaurant. They're celebrating one of their birthdays. One of these girls at this particular table, white woman, heavier, younger, has dyed blonde hair from what I could tell, and a Skrillex haircut, where one side of their head is shaved. Her appearance, her age, her weight, her race, just from that few moments I looked over at that table, I could tell you everything that woman holds important. We would like to think, we would like to believe for the sake of our own sanity that these people that look like this exist only on obscure blogs and strange corners of the internet. But they don't. They exist. They exist elsewhere. So with that being said, I've had this screenshot for a couple of years, and I was reminded of it. And this is a secondhand screenshot. I didn't gather it myself. Again, I've had it for a number of years. I found it on some various image board, but it looks to be a screenshot from Stormfront, which is why I mentioned it. And I will read to you the post contained within this screenshot. And this is a reply from a thread called White Men Who Date Asian Women. And the post says, although the last poster went to extremes in his stereotypes of women, fat white women versus slim attractive Asian girl, it is so damn common. I have been racially aware since my late teens. I dated all white girls until my late 20s. Those same white girls broke up with me when I discussed racially aware issues. Not hate. I treated the subject lightly to judge their opinion on it. I am now early 30s and less than 5% of single white women my age are under 75 kilos. I broke up with a dead gorgeous Asian girl to go out with an overweight white girl in the hope we could just make as many babies as possible and I would take one for the team to ensure our seed survived. After dating this white girl, treating her well, she broke up with me because she mentioned her gay male friend was a chef at a restaurant near here, to which I casually replied, well, I know not to eat there again. End of relationship. These women are conditioned early childhood since early childhood to not tolerate such thinking, and it's very hard to even make inroads to. Second problem is the welfare system in Australia and all Western nations. Without the single mother's pension or other welfare payments, these women would be forced to find work, a nice man, and at least present themselves well so that a nice man will find them. Instead, our government robs our paychecks to pay them to be single. This is no accident. Why bother getting off the couch and exercising, dressing nicely, and treating a man well if the government will pay you not to? This is getting so frustrating. The white pictures in the previous post are accurate likenesses of the girls in my neighborhood, and the picture is included. It's of a group of 3 rather overweight women, more overweight than the one I was talking about. Okay, accurate likenesses of the girls in my neighborhood, and I am expected to wake up every day next to that. As I said, I am fully racially aware and would never have a half-caste kid, but there are very few options left. If nothing changes in a couple of years, when I am 35, then I will get an Asian and adopt some white kids. Very sad tale indeed for a hard-working, intelligent, fit, strong male of our race. Say what you will, this post was only meant to highlight the frustrations of a large group of men. And to this, somebody replied in this same screenshot, "How many threads is there on this topic? One too many, I say. Put it to rest, trolls. Race traders are race traders." And these posts were made in July 2009. So I don't know what became of this guy. I don't know what he ended up doing, but I remember saving this, a couple years after it was initially posted, wherever it was posted, and I just thought it was really sad. I say this a lot on this show, that loyalty is a two-way street. And I say this not to promote the idea that you should be a fair-weather friend, that you should only be a friend when things are going well. I say this because extending loyalty to that which has no interest in being loyal to you is incredibly dangerous. It's a matter of self-preservation. Women, by virtue of their physical stature and chemical makeup, value conformity first and foremost. And they only value loyalty when loyalty significantly overlaps with conformity. They are going to go with the trends that are winning. They are only going to side with the winning team. The cultural trend, whoever caused it, with respect to what I'm talking about right now, whoever caused these trends, it doesn't matter. We're simply dealing with the results of these trends. The trends right now are rootlessness and novelty seeking. Inclusion, not exclusion. And the man who has an interest in continuing his people's legacy, he's not allowed to express that desire. Hell, ignore the racial component. Look at what the white woman in the screenshot, the relationship he was in with this overweight white woman, look what she ended the relationship over. Him saying some offhanded comment about some guy he doesn't even know. He's already rolling the dice by potentially marrying and having children with this woman. He can't make a joke because it trips her triggers. But you know what? That was probably a blessing in disguise for that guy. That shit would have ended in divorce had it gone far enough. But that's totally worth your dying race clinging on for a few extra years. A race that doesn't have any interest in self-preservation. A race that views its own obliteration as unequivocally good. So that's what that woman at that restaurant reminded me of. She could probably be cast in this story if the story were to be made in a movie. A woman who would report you to her college's tribunal because you said something sexist or homophobic or you mentioned white people in a positive way. Now, I'm not saying this to piss off the white nationalists that subscribe to this channel, of which there are a few that I know of and maybe a lot more that I don't. But keep this in mind. I'm a white nationalist myself, just as I am a black nationalist, a brown nationalist, a red nationalist, a yellow nationalist. I want these groups of people to exist. I want them to exist where they thrive. And I don't think anyone is thriving in West Palm Beach. I brought up the movie Hood Life, Volume 3, and Stormfront and the connection that these two seemingly unrelated things have with one another. Because if you're posting on Stormfront, you're one of the founders of Stormfront, you want to take shelter amongst your own people. Because you have a sense of belonging with them. You don't have to worry about some crazy guy with an AK-47 making a target out of you. Which, if you are in West Palm Beach, it's a possibility. But even if you have the more fortunate situation of not living in a high crime area, and you just want to have babies that look like you, you can't really get that either. So what I'm trying to say is that there's basically no quarter. At least it won't come easy, or at least naturally, because the system has removed the incentive for it being easy or natural. And I didn't mention Hood Life Volume 3 because I wanted to make some sort of statement about what's going on in Baltimore. I think I got a question about it, and I'm really not interested in talking about it, even though I will read the email, because the information has come out that the cops that got in trouble, 3 out of the 6 of them are black, and the victim is black. So there you go, your basic bitch liberal narrative, basic bitch, borrowing a phrase here, of a middle class narrative is bullshit. I mention Hood Life because I've been watching a lot of Tommy Sotomayor videos recently, and I am quite familiar with the various misdeeds of black women who are mostly single mothers and therefore raised generations of people featured in movies like Hood Life. It's just across the board dysgenics, and I didn't write any of this shit down, so I hit a dead end at a certain point, and it seems like all is lost and there's nothing but despair, but that's the problem when you just sit here and you talk shit through. It seems like it's really just hopeless for everyone. So having said that, let's move on to something more absurd and something that maybe we can get a few laughs out of. And for this story, I give credit to Handgun Wales, and Wales is spelled W-A-L-E-S. And that's a Twitter handle. They're the ones that found this article that I'm about to read to you. This is from GAYSTAHnews.com. The title of the article: I caught my new guy and my HIV positive ex having bareback sex at my party. I had never felt so much anger in my entire life. Neither had I felt such a gut-wrenching sense of betrayal, and from my ex-boyfriend and the new guy in my life. I felt like I was experiencing all the struggles, insecurities, and resentments almost every gay guy has living in the city coming into one. I caught them fucking in my bed at a house party. The most shocking part, that they were going at it bareback, when my ex had recently found out his new boyfriend had given him HIV. Dump pause loads in me. Get me paused up. Alex, name changed, didn't disclose his status, and my guy didn't ask. They both just assumed each other's status. My relationship with Alex was turbulent at best. He was one of the first new people I'd met in London. So I felt some kind of allegiance to him, but he'd been physically violent towards me on occasion and was wildly possessive. I didn't plan for this to happen, another homosexual plus domestic violence spiel, which I forgave and accepted following every incident of some new guy looking my way. I look back now and see the relationship at the time as an anchor for my new life in London. And despite everything that had happened, I wanted to hold on to this safety net, even when things finally came to an end and I'd quietly come to my senses. Eventually, we built a bond of friendship, as having mutual friends had kept us in the same circles. Hence Alex coming to me to tell me he might have caught HIV from his new boyfriend. I stood by him and made sure he knew I was there for him. I'd never had someone close to me experience something so life-changing as HIV. So even though our relationship was troubled, our newfound friendship, whether real or not now I look at it, led me to care for him no matter what. And that's where we were. We were sharing a history, a strong bond, and a reliance on each other for better or worse. Fast forward 3 months, and I had a house full of people downstairs enjoying my party, and upstairs it felt like a large chunk of my life had crumbled from under my feet. Adrenaline and anger overwhelmed me as I shouted for them both to leave. Alex's reaction to being caught red-handed, never mind, I'm not going to say it, was to launch himself at me, pinning me by my neck against the window and raising his fist, as the commotion had brought friends upstairs to see what was going on. Before he had the chance to hit me, Alex was pulled off me, and I shouted him down the stairs and out of the house, followed by the other guy who was in fits of drunken tears. He stayed outside the house as Alex left until I came to my senses and realized I had to tell him he needed to go and get PEP. What's PEP? I'm not clicking that link. The next day, Alex texted me this: "I'm sorry, I don't remember anything." I told him and the other guy, once I had made sure he'd been to the hospital, never to speak to me again. The guy agreed. Alex persisted, but I haven't spoken to him to this day, and I never plan to. We live close by, and I'm dreading the day I bump into him. I've been left with quite cold belief that you shouldn't ignore someone's failings or give them any leeway in life, even if they're dealing with something as serious as an HIV diagnosis. They are people, and it is not an excuse to self-destruct and take others with him. Despite my feelings and things I'm dealing with now, the main concern here is health and the mental well-being of people who have recently been diagnosed, or of those who are concerned about the way they may react to such news. If you feel like you can't come to terms with your diagnosis, or you're worried about how you'll react if you discover you have HIV, then please seek help. And then somebody saying that this article is complete bullshit. Problem number 1, promoting the belief that HIV positive guys are promiscuous. Well, how the fuck did they get it in the first place? It's either they're promiscuous or they're doing heroin with used needles. Well, thank you, GAYSTAH News, for giving me my fill of news about gay people. And there's somebody in the comment section with a Naruto avatar, and it comes from there. Well, yeah, the comment system is based on Facebook. For fuck's sake. You know, I'm not linking to this. You guys can find it on your own. I'm not promoting this shit. Oh, they have a poll on their website on the sidebar here. Have you ever had sex in a public place? Top result: yes, and I do it again, with 56% of the vote out of 4 options. Have you ever had sex in a public place? The options here are yes, and I do it again, 56% again. Yes, but never again, with 11%. No, but I'd be open to it, 12%. And no, never, 21%. Most popular stories: gay porn performer Rylan Knox commits suicide. Gee, wonder why. German milk technician crowned Mr. Gay World 2015. Are these people trying to be cute? Or are they trying to be clever? Happy birthday, David Beckham. 14 reasons we love golden balls on his 40th. Oh, here's one. Magazine prints issue using ink laced with HIV positive blood. Are you fucking kidding me? An Austrian magazine has used ink infused with the blood of 3 HIV positive people to print a special edition of their current issue. I don't know why I'm reminded of this, but didn't the band Kiss have a comic book with their blood in it? Anyway, Vanguardist magazine, usually only available online, released their 3rd print issue, called the Heroes issue, next week. Yeah, nothing more heroic than getting a disease that is easily avoidable. A special edition of 3,000 copies have been printed with ink containing blood donated by 3 HIV positive men. A further 15,000 copies have been printed using normal ink. Julian Wheel, CEO and Vanguardist's editor, told GAYSTAH News they were aiming to send a message to the world. Is this at all related to World Star? Are we gonna have like a planet of people, like of those kids in those vines shouting "GAYSTAH, GAYSTAH"? Anyway, a message especially relevant while Austria is in the media focus. I hope I said Austria the first time, not Australian. That would have been dumb. But whatever, we'll roll with the mistakes. This year's Eurovision Song Contest and the Life Ball, one of the biggest HIV and AIDS charity events in the world, are both held in Vienna, with only 3 days between events. If I pick up this magazine and hold it in my hand, I confront myself, and I confront my tears and prejudices, Wheel described. Each of the special editions available from the 4th of May in Austria, Switzerland, and Germany comes wrapped in plastic and carries the note, "Break the seal and help break the stigma. If there is an infection, we should try and cure it, not stigmatize it," Wheel said. Well, we do that. But there are people that want to receive the gift. The gift. Some of the biggest symptoms of HIV are listed as isolation and depression. He continued, "As long as something like this is seen as provoking, it means that the topic of HIV is not done being talked about. Touching the issue does not hold any risk of infection, but Wheel said some comments online accused Vanguardist of trying to murder people. The idea was developed by Swiss advertising agency Saatchi & Saatchi, who considered Vanguardist to be the ideal carrier." Somebody has a sense of humor. "With this unique project, we want to create a response in a heartbeat by transforming the media into the very root of the stigma itself. By printing every word, line, picture, and page of the magazine with blood from HIV-positive people," Jason Romeko, the agency's executive creative director, said. "By holding the issue, readers immediately break the taboo." Oh, so it's taboo to handle the blood of people who are infected with this horrible disease. Yeah, we should totally break that stigma. No, inject it. Inject it right into your arm. And if you've already watched all of the episodes of Tumblr, never mind. I can't say it here. And as we mentioned, the decline of European civilization earlier in this show. More examples of it. And I had not planned this. Just works out this way sometimes. Stuff pops up. One thing leads to another. And all of a sudden we're reading about polls regarding gays who have sex in public places. And of course, HIV positive blood being used in ink. And that's totally a reason to end a relationship, being averse to this shit. And how perfect that I planned to play this clip I'm about to play for you at the beginning of this episode, but I decided against it because I felt there were more interesting matters to address. But you know what, we've come full circle, so let this dipshit tell you all about it.
Okay, I'm gonna do this without exploding. Lord Jesus. Okay, I'm getting really sick of these homophobes just starting to go judge gay people because they don't like women, okay? First of all, they were technically born gay or they just chose to be gay, okay? People can't help that. Some people are gay for a reason. I can give you 2 good reasons. Number 1, they're obviously sexually attracted to them. Number 2, and why they are attracted to them, because if you're a girl and you're a lesbian and you're dating a girl, you want to know something? They actually, if they have female problems like getting their period or something, and if they both got their period, they would actually bond like a lot closer, because I've actually researched it and it's true. That's why some females are lesbians and some men are gay. I don't even know why you have anything against gay people. What did they do to you? Be gay? Because if that's why, you have a really serious problem. See someone, like, for real. Oh yeah, and to let you know that if you live in Ohio and you're a homophobe, they're about to legalize it in our state. So once it's legalized, this is what I'm gonna do to you. Ha! Who's laughing now? It's legalized. Now you gotta deal with it, jerk. And you might as well have "I hate gays" all over your forehead. I'm heated. And if you're on my Facebook and you're a homophobe, you might as well delete me now because I could care less about you. Screw you.
Guilt is a common emotion that I feel when I upload stuff to this channel and people comment on it. When I upload stuff to Facebook and people comment on it. And the reason I feel guilt is because I feel like I am robbing people of innocence. Whatever amount of innocence they have, I am destroying that. And I do this by simply bringing attention to things. Things that people might be aware of vaguely. They might be aware they exist on some minor scale, but when confronted with it, they realize how horrible things have become. But on the other hand, that kid you just listened to, he is a product of what innocence now manifests itself as. He has no idea that what he is talking about includes people who have bareback sex when they're HIV positive. People who want to have public sex. People who give their HIV positive blood for the sake of making it into ink that people handle. So even innocence, what innocence has become, even that is disgusting. But I have to think about it extra. I have to think about it at that extra step to make myself feel better about it. Because when I see regular people whose goal in life is just to just do right by their family, and these are the kinds of people that are exposing themselves to my content, I feel really bad about that. They have more immediate concerns than what the culture is going to look like in a number of years. But I have the feeling that this brand of innocence is something that is becoming more rare. I have another one of these sorts of videos, so might as well get it out of the way, being that we're on the subject. Let's play it.
Trans! Woo! If you didn't already know, I'm pretty open about this. I'm bisexual too. So now I have 2 of the things out of LGBT. I'm a halfie! Yay! Anyway, but I'm not trans girl. I'm not a trans boy. It's hard to explain. I'm trans neutral. Oh my God, what is that? I'm a trans neutral. I'm a non-binary. And a few points about non-binaries. 1, they exist. Please accept the fact that they exist. You know, some examples of non-binaries are, like me, gender neutral, neither girl nor boy. Bi-gender, girl and boy at the same time. And gender fluid. Your identity between boy and girl drifts back and forth. What is this doing? Should be in the ponytail by now. Doesn't know shit. Shit gone ham. Moving on. Also, people think, for some reason, that if I'm a trans neutral, I have to look neutral. Bruh, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Oh my gosh, Firefox is asking me to update. No! Sorry for that interruption. Let me tell you something. Trans girls do not have to look like girls. Trans boys do not have to look like boys. Trans neutrals do not have to look neutral, okay? There is no, at least, there are very few gender-neutral clothing options out there, and while that pisses me off, I enjoy wearing feminine clothes, and I also enjoy wearing traditionally masculine clothes. I mean, even though I'm neutral and I'm not a girl, I have curves, and they're fabulous, and I prefer not to pretend they don't exist. Thank y'all very much, okay? This shirt, this polka dot shirt, these curves, this fabulousness, my girly swimsuits, my makeup, my hair does not make me a girl, and dressing like a boy does not make me a boy, does not make me bi-gender, does not make me gender fluid, okay? I don't have to look like a gender, because there is no looking like a gender, okay? There is no looking like a gender. If boys can wear makeup, boys can dress feminine, if girls cannot wear makeup, and girls can dress masculine, there is absolutely no problem with a neutral not doing it. And also, 3, if you're like totally behind on all of this, and you have no idea what trans means, oh boy, somebody's been not using the internet recently. Whew. I can't really explain trans to you in the 1 minute that I have left of this, but basically, this, what else is there? My cells have chromosomes in them. That does not make me a girl. My sex is different from my gender, blah, 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 blah. The way I express my gender is different from my gender identity, blah, 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 blah. Spiel, spiel, spiel. You get this at this point. At least I hope you do. If you don't get this, just search Lacey Green, Transgender Adventures. I'll even link it in the description like the helpful person I am. And I want to end this very quickly. Oh my god, I only have like a few more seconds. I am not a girl, I am not a boy, I am not both. I do not drift between the two. I am a person. I'm neither. And I'm okay with that. Woo! Also, if you're wondering, I kind of want to do a non-binary Pride Week, but I need some more people to help me organize it, because I am not going around with posters like I did at the beginning of the year, because that epic failed. But I'm not really sure if I really want to organize this, because, to be honest, for me, every week is non-binary Pride Week, okay? Alright, see you guys later! Bye! Woo! Also, if you're wondering about pronouns, I know you hate me for doing this, but they, them is fine, but if you want to make me school in excitement, use Z, Zir, Z, like... Z has a YouTube channel. Z is really long. Z sucks at making short videos. That's how you use Z. Zir is like possessive, so like Zir YouTube channel. Zir favorite band. Okay, bye.
Now that we are angry, agitated, triggered, whatever you want to call it, let's do emails. And I got another one of these emails. We have been consistently watching your channel and appreciate the content standards and high quality videos. You haven't been watching them at all. Hence, we extend this invitation to you to become a part of our rapidly expanding, I'm not giving them free advertising, which is managing the most popular and largely viewed YouTube. YouTube what? The parasite economy. What can you do about it? I actually changed my mind. I'm going to do Ask FM because the questions in here are older. What do you think of the way elderly people are treated in society? Well, other than social security, I think there is a lot of disconnect between the younger generation and the older generation. And I say that out of experience because, I'm on good terms with my grandparents. It's just, they just weren't a significant part of my upbringing. And I don't want to project my own experiences onto society at large, but I do imagine that there are people who come from a similar situation with regard to their grandparents. I really just don't know enough about the subject of how elderly people are treated on a large scale. Though I did read once that when you adjust relative to their percentage of the population or something of that sort, that elderly people commit suicide at the highest rate of any group. But thank you for the question. Intergenerational relationships are a subject that's not often explored, and I think somebody closer to the situation with more expertise, I would listen to what they would have to say about it. And if there are any resources like that out there where people do explore the divide between young and old, please bring them to my attention. Okay, next from Ask FM. Did you read the case of Roxanne Dubé's sons? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not, but there is an accent over the E. Anyway, makes you wonder if it comes in their genes or influenced by their surroundings about living thug life because you're black. I actually hadn't heard this story until I pulled up the Daily Mail bullet point cliff note version of this, so I'll read it for everyone in case you aren't familiar as well. Canadian counsel's son, 17, dies and her other son, 15, is charged with murder after gunfight erupted as they attempted to rob Miami drug dealers of $5,000 of marijuana. A very intelligent move there. Mark Wabafie-Bazu, 15, has been arrested for felony murder, and his brother Jean, 17, was shot dead on Monday. I guess if it's Canadian, it would be Jean. This after an incident in which two reportedly tried to rob a group of Miami drug dealers. Their mother is Roxanne Dubé, a recently appointed Canadian Consul General in Miami. The boys had driven to a house with a third friend, reportedly purchased 2 pounds of marijuana for $5,000. Gunfire erupted soon after they entered, though Mark was in the car at the time. Another man, Joshua Wright, was killed, and Anthony Rodriguez, who was wounded, was also arrested on charges of felony murder. I don't have time to research it right now, but let's assume these kids were adopted, then that would be the nature over nurture argument prevailing. But on the other hand, you really don't hear of this kind of thing happening in small tribal Africa. Ramsey Paul had a good video about it recently. He thinks that most American blacks, they are decent people. It's just more than what we are used to tend to misbehave because there is a conflict between what their biology demands of them and their situation. There's an error in their programming where they're not being plugged into the right spot. As I've said before, most of these people probably would be better off had they been born outside of the confines of European civilization. Now, a lot of them have done remarkably well to adapt to it. It's just those that have failed to adapt, their failures are more public and more spectacular. So I really don't know what kind of narrative you can apply to this story. I'm just stunned at the fact that these kids would be dumb enough to steal from dangerous, violent criminals who sell drugs. Alright, I have a couple of articles that people sent me, and a picture of a map, which I'll try to remember to include to edit in the video so you can take a look at it, but I don't think I'm going to remember to do that, so I'll just read it to you. But first, we're going to read this article from LifeSiteNews.com, Lesbian Teacher, How I Convinced Kids to Accept Gay Marriage Starting at 4 Years Old. And the person that sent me this, an article that made me extremely upset at the state of education in the Western world. Young malleable minds are being spoon-fed garbage. I'm sure you would have a comment on this. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the details. And I will link to this because I don't have any problems with LifeSiteNews.com. A primary grade lesbian teacher from an Ontario public school revealed in a workshop at a homosexual activist conference for teachers earlier this month how she uses her classroom to convince children as young as 4 to accept homosexual relationships. And I started in kindergarten. What a great place to start. It was where I was teaching, so I was the most comfortable there, Pam Strong said at the conference attended by LifeSite News. The conference, hosted by the homosexual activist organization's Jers Vision, now called the Canadian Centre for Gender and Sexual Diversity, focused on the implementation of Bill 13 in Ontario classrooms. Bill 13, called by critics the Homosexual Bill of Rights, passed in June 2012 and gave the students the right to form pro-gay clubs in their school, including Catholic ones, using the name Gay Straight Alliance. Strong, who is in an open relationship with another woman and who has been a teacher for about 5 years, focused her workshop on what she called the power of conversation from promoting LGBTQ issues in an elementary classroom. She began her talk by relating how she reacted the first time one of her students called another student gay as a put-down. With the principal's encouragement, we decided that I would go from class to class and talk about what gay means, what LGBTQ means. What do I mean? She told about 40 attendees, all educators, at her workshop. I really wish we would stop using the word educator. We should use the word indoctrinator. When you get down to it, when you boil life down to its essentials. What do 90% of people need, and what are they capable of? They need basic grammar and math. That's what 90% of people are capable of, and you know what? They don't really need any more than that. The world doesn't need 1 million or more of these fucking idiots who get validation from children, who are so insecure about their life choices that they need to convince children that, yes, this is who I am, and that's just fine, and you shouldn't judge people. Let's read back to that part that triggered her. She began her talk by relating how she reacted the first time one of her students called another student gay. She was triggered by a 4-year-old calling another 4-year-old gay. Even with how emasculated and dildo men have become, you never hear of them pulling shit like this. It's because a man's sense of worth rightfully doesn't come from the opinion of a child. But even when they deny their ultimate biological purposes, their work still reflects it, and they being women. She's like, I'm a lesbian, except my sex acts can't result in a baby being created, but I still care what kids think. As despicable as this woman is, she's pathetic, because she cares about the opinions of children that aren't even her own, that aren't of her legacy. But let's read on. Strong related to how she began with the junior kindergarten class. And I read a pro-gay child's book, King and King, and I started to realize that conversations can be very difficult. Gee, wonder why. And they can have the most power when they are the most difficult. But difficult conversations are part of what we do as teachers, right? What? Teaching them their ABCs and 3 times 3 is 9? Yeah, real difficult. And when these conversations are properly supported by teachers, within the safety of the classroom, they provide a rich environment for our students as they unpack these complex social issues, and they reflect on their own preconceptions, rights of gender, sexuality, love, all these different things, despite the fact that these kids are not sexual beings. They cannot create a baby. The only love they feel is towards their parents. And that's for a good reason, because that's the only thing protecting those kids from whatever cruel things are out there, or their parents. That is why they feel love towards their parents. It's like no one gets it. Love is just a means to an end, not an end in and of itself. But no, according to the culture, we feel these things for no other reason than to feel them. And these feelings are good, and they can't be wrong. And no, they aren't masturbatory at all. Because, shut up, you bigot. How dare you? Same love. And more. Strong related that she was reading King and King in the junior kindergarten class as a springboard to discuss her sexuality with the kids. Again, why? She got to the part where the 2 princes become married when one of the boys suddenly shouted out, "They can't do that. They can't get married. They're boys," recounted Strong. And I said, yeah. Oh, yeah, they can. It's right here on page 12. To which the boy replied, according to Strong, "Oh, yeah, I know, Mrs. Strong, but that's just a story. That's not real life." And I said, it happens in real life, too. I am married to a woman. I am gay. And I am in love with my wife. Strong said the young children just all kind of went silent. She told them, "That may seem different to you. How many of you have heard that before?" Not one hand went up, she related. And so I said, "That may seem different to you, but we're not that different. Would you like to know about what I do with my family?" "Yeah, tell us," she recounted, the children enthusiastically saying. I said, "You know, we take our kids to the park, I swing them on swings," she related. "Also, I put my mouth on this gross old woman's vagina." That's the part she didn't say, because someone should try to trigger somebody into saying that. That would be fantastic. Okay. We swing on swings. That means we're just the same as you. Telling the conference attendees that she could share things she did with her own children that most likely all of their families did with them. Then she told the children, we laugh together, we go grocery shopping together. I read to them, I tickle them, sometimes until they scream and laugh when they cry. I hug them until they stop. And after never mind. Strong said that at that point, the boy who had used the word gay looked at her and said, well, you're a family. And I said, yeah, we are, she related, and I go off to the next classroom. Strong said that she went from class to class and continued with these conversations, and they were very powerful. Yeah, telling kids that family means that you go to the grocery store and you go to the swings. Yeah, some powerful words there. It's totally not leaving anything out, preying on the obliviousness of children to further a personal agenda. I really can't imagine anything more pathetic, but what can I do about it other than make fun of it? Alright, this link comes from Anonymous, like the previous links. The question says, what's your take on this? Do you think it's a sign of worse things to come? Scientists successfully genetically modify human embryos, allowing for editing of babies' genes. That's the title of the article that was attached to that question. I remember reading about the genetically modified humans living among us back in 2005, so this is not a new thing at all. I think they were calling these humans designer babies. Making this cute little term, oh, they want to make designer babies, how nice, to get all the dullards who have Yahoo set as their homepage to talk about it in positive terms. But this is just another step towards digitization of humanity, uploading all of our brains to a computer so that kids that think that they're the opposite sex can live out that fantasy. That's right, transhumanism is basically people who want life to be like a character creation menu in an RPG. It's absolutely absurd. Pick one. Next question. Pick one. American nations today. The left coast, which looks like Cascadia plus, I don't know, it looks like it goes down to Monterey, the Monterey Bay. The far west includes Anchorage and Fairbanks, Alaska. That's basically like Idaho, Nevada, East California, basically the rural parts of California, Washington, Oregon, and it goes all the way to the Dakotas. Yeah, this doesn't work if I don't include it in the video, so sorry, I would pick the far west, I guess. Alright, this is a two-parter because Ask FM has a limit to how long the questions can be, I guess. Hi CF, in the UK there's a general election this Thursday, May 7th. I'm considering voting for the UKIP, the only major party wanting to give us a controlled immigration policy by getting us out of the EU, as opposed to the clusterfuck we have now, where anyone in Europe can come here and leech off the welfare state straight away. However, I'm conflicted for two reasons. The first is that I disagree with universal suffrage, so I'm thinking that I should not vote out of principle. And the second is that in the grand scheme of things, just my one vote won't even matter. What should I do? Keep up the good show. I would say vote because it's not as if you abstaining your vote is going to make it so that democracy goes away. It's just not going to happen, and you should vote UKIP to trigger the fuck out of the various dildos that live in your country because I think that's worth it in and of itself. I'm not a British citizen, so I can't vote, but I have been encouraging people to vote UKIP on my various Facebook pages. Alright, let's get into email questions and get through as many of these before I run out of energy. I'm going to open the one that says, don't include my name if you choose to add this. Well, your wish is my command. Let's take a look at what it is. The email says, Hi CF, I was talking to my father while doing the dishes about your YouTube videos. He was shocked to learn how poorly our youth is doing. As an ex-Tumblr tard, it's hard to see how low some of these people will go. So I have two things to share with you. I knew this quote-unquote guy. They're apparently transgender now as they have a vagina. And I told him some very personal details about how I was sexually assaulted when I was younger. Keep in mind they identify as a feminist. I was sad to know they were apparently best friends with my abuser. Although my main perpetrator was only a year older than me, I still and many others consider it sexual assault. This ex-friend of mine then proceeded to tell me, since my perpetrator died at the age of 12, I was going after an innocent dead kid along with the usual kill yourself and your transphobic bullshit. I think I'm sharing this to justify how skewed some feminists are with their views. They'll only protect and do a bad job at it. They're little non-cishet Tumblr friends. One more thing. I feel as if feminists are huge hypocrites. I tweeted several of those die-cis scum people saying, "Why are you saying that? But us normal people cannot say that to you." Obviously I said cis instead of normal because that was before my transition back to reality. They responded with, "It's not the same thing. You're terrible and a transphobic piece of shit, die-cis scum, yada yada yada." But it's like, if this is all about equality, why are you saying this is different? Same with racism. Here's a few of these losers' Twitters. It's pretty cringy, you may want to add it to your Tumblristas watch list. First one is some random bitch. Second one is ex-Tumblr Nazi friend. Well, I don't have anything I feel that is appropriate to add. I'm definitely sorry that these things have happened to you, and I hope things get better for you and continue to get better in the future. And I think this is valuable because this is a quote that's been on my mind recently, and I know who said it, but I'm going to get the name wrong, so I'm not going to say it, but the quote is, "The current price of brotherhood is degradation." I think your story is a confirmation of that. Given that most of the culture is transmitted through the internet nowadays, we tend to think that these kinds of people we deal with on the internet exist only on the internet, but they exist. They exist outside of cyberspace. And they have very real and negative effects on people. And this is why you can never be too careful in choosing who you associate with. Thank you for the email. Next email is from Kendall. "I'm a 16-year-old boy who has never had a girlfriend, and the more I watch a show and look around me, I care less and less. All dating really is a way to see who is compatible for marriage the way I see it. So I have a question. If any American man were to marry in this day and age, are they better off marrying some foreign woman? Western women are just so entitled and have no sense of compromise, and it starts in elementary school. And that's why so many marriages fail these days. Also, I wanted your opinion on the state of the black community. I'm black myself, and I honestly think the main reason that the black community is the way it is due to the disarray of the basic family unit. Anyways, keep up the good work. I love the show." Thank you very much for the email. I think with regards to American women, Western women, as in all things, if you look for something, you will find it if you look hard enough for it. I think that there are a lot of decent women out there. It's just they are in dwindling numbers. I think most importantly is the fact that you're still really young and you're still going to meet a lot of people in your life. I think amongst the people that you will meet in the future, you will find a woman who is loyal and decent and is interested in being with a man who is too loyal and decent. So don't lose hope with regard to finding female companionship, because there's a lot of people out there. But I do, to some extent, understand the appeal in finding a foreign wife who will be appreciative, to some extent, for some period of time, the relative ease of life that is afforded to people in America and the Western world. But on the other hand, the guys that get mail-order brides from Russia or Vietnam are typically really sleazy and really aren't doing the mail-order bride thing for noble reasons. If they were serious about finding a traditional woman, they would just go to these locations and contribute to the culture that they seek to marry into. And there are immigrant women and second-generation women that aren't mail-order brides that live in America. It's just, you're going to have a hard time finding one of those that isn't a fat Mexican woman with 5 children. But as for what I think of the black community, this email is a nice coincidence because I opened it after I recorded the stuff I mentioned earlier. And yeah, I absolutely agree that a lot of the dysfunction that you see in a lot of black people is due to the fact that these people are coming from single mother households and a complete lack of father in their lives, which just made me realize that I neglected the part of your email where you mentioned that you introduced my show to your dad, which I appreciate. So you don't have that problem. And I'm going to mention Tommy Sotomayor again because I like a lot of his stuff. He had a video some time ago. It wasn't too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. He had a video basically saying why single motherhood is so prevalent amongst black people. And he blames white liberals. And I think that's true to some extent. I think it's the welfare state in general and the liberals who are complicit in continuing it because their livelihoods are dependent on it. They're often government employees. If there's no welfare, then there's no social workers, there's no people to process the checks that get sent out to these people. If there are less single mothers, there are less checks to send out, there are less social workers to employ. I don't know how the EBT welfare payments get calculated, but I could be wrong on this, but I do know for a fact that they get more money for each child they have. And I think they get more money if they're a single parent household. But even if the welfare state didn't reward single motherhood is awful in and of itself because the people that become single mothers, they treat their children horribly. Just so many stories I've seen and heard about these single moms terrorizing their children. And there's a difference between terror and fear. It seems like these single mothers, they terrorize their children, whereas fathers in general, they put a healthy fear into their child. Because terror, there's no boundaries. You don't know what's going to set somebody off. And I think that mothers without the input of a father are not very capable of setting those boundaries. So you're absolutely right. There needs to be whole families in order to have functional people. And the fact that there are so many women out there who say that they're a single mom like it's a source of pride is just disturbing. And that's all I can think of at this time. But again, thank you for the email. Next question is from Mr. Carducci. It seems like every month there is a new riot happening in some American city or suburb. What should be done about ongoing race war in the USA? What we could do as a culture is target the journalists who further this narrative. These good Goyim College Marxists who want to help out the oppressed. We have reached the point where a free press is now a detriment to public safety. But these people suffer from such cognitive dissonance that in their worldview, the oppressed group in this situation in Baltimore is also the oppressor. Because like I said earlier, 3 of the 6 cops that got in trouble are black. Even if this went down exactly how the prosecutors say it went down, the narrative is false. But do we need any more proof that diversity plus proximity equals war? But you know, once you start talking about racial separatism, that means you want to kill people. You know, I listened to most of Mein Kampf, and not once, I listened to the audiobook version of it, not once did Hitler say, I want to kill black people. Not once did he say, I want to blow up all of Africa. But listening to these nut jobs out there, you would think that he did say those things repeatedly. But I don't know what to do other than to destroy the lives of those that work in journalism and news media. Alright, next question is from Anthony. I wanted to know, what is your opinion on men going into occupations that are traditionally female-dominated? Example, nurses. I'm studying to become a nurse and will hopefully move up from an RN position and into an ER nurse or nurse anesthetist. I know what I am capable of doing and not doing, and so that is why I am pursuing a career in nursing and not as an MD or surgeon. Also extremely unrelated, and I hope I don't come off as condescending or assuming, but what is your reaction whenever you find out that you have non-white fans of your content? I'm from California, but I am from Mexican and Spanish descent. Shocker. And though I don't agree with everything you say, I still look forward to your videos and such. Anyways, hope you have a great week and God bless. Well, thank you very much. I'll address the question regarding my multicultural fan base first. I really don't care who watches or listens to my stuff. Whoever takes enjoyment in the material that I create, I have no problem with that. By all means, enjoy it. I really appreciate it. I'm just not going to apologize for the perspective that I have on life, which is a perspective that comes from the fact that I am an American of European descent. And by the way, I am also of Spanish descent. My great-grandfather was born in Spain. But as we've discovered, I've answered questions from non-whites on this episode already, and if the things I say resonate with groups of people that I don't belong to, I'm not going to exclude them from having those reactions. But as for pursuing a career in nursing, and nursing is typically female-dominated, I don't see any problem with that. I think the reason why there are more female nurses than male nurses is because the profession trips their nurturing triggers in some way. And before I forget, if you want to troll somebody who's whining about the fact that there aren't enough women in STEM fields, bring up the fact that there are 90%, 90% of nurses are female. You see, when mostly men are in a given field, that's discrimination and oppression, and when it's mostly female, well, girls are just better at it. The amount of doublethink is just disgusting, and it's a wonder how these people who hold these views even function. And they probably wouldn't if there wasn't a giant society-wide safety net to keep them propped up, but different subject. But even though becoming a nurse takes less time than becoming a medical doctor does, it still requires a great degree of medical expertise. But overall, it's not a field when I hear a guy going into it. It's not like I think that there's something wrong with that guy. It's just, it is a statistical oddity, and it just is what it is. Now, if you said you were becoming a flight attendant, I might have to do a double take. But yeah, nursing, there's nothing wrong with going into it. I knew a guy when I was in college. He was going into the nursing program, and he had a wife, and he was a cool, normal dude. Nothing wrong with him. Just a small anecdote. I know it doesn't mean anything, but I have known a male nurse in my life, so I thought I'd tell you. Alright, let's do this question from Pablo. And he asks, do you think that nationalism inherently leads to conflict and is the root cause for international conflict? I think that the struggle for resources is the international conflict, and I think that struggle for obtaining resources for your people would exist independent of any national identity. It just happens to coincide with it. When I talk about nationalism, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the average person, because if you watch the Vine compilation that I put up on YouTube last week, on this channel last week, it's mostly white kids saying that I'm gender fluid, I'm this, I'm that. And that's because they have nothing to channel that need for the sense of belonging into. They are rootless individuals without a nation, a family to be loyal to. I think that people need to experience a strong national identity, or else their identity will be assigned to these horrible, dysfunctional things. I'll use the Italians as an example, and I'll use the Swedes as an example, because I encountered a poll some number of months ago where it polled the people of these European nations, and the poll question was, do you think that your culture is superior to others? Sweden had the lowest percentage of people that said, yes, our culture is better, whereas the Italians, they had the highest percentage of their population that said, yes, our culture is better. And you don't see Sweden going into too many other countries, true. You don't see too many Swedes waging war for Sweden, trying to claim other countries for their own. But the same is true of the Italians. The difference is, Italians aren't making themselves into cuckolds for Somalians. And this is not to bash on Sweden so hard, even though I bring them up a lot, because they're really the face of ethnomasochism. Even though I've encountered posts on the internet expressing grief over the fact that Sweden has become what it has become. And those posts are from Swedish nationals. So I'm definitely not of the opinion that a pride and appreciation of one's own culture leads you to want to do violence to other cultures. So that's about as well as I can answer that question. And with that question being answered, I am not answering any more questions this week. I'm done answering questions because I am tired. And though I am tired, I am no less thankful for you listening to this program. And I am no less thankful for you purchasing Tumbleristas Raw Volume 2 if you have done so. And if you haven't done so, but you plan on doing so, I thank you in advance. So let's close out the episode with some music from Superman. You can check the SoundCloud link below. Also check out my Bandcamp and Amazon affiliate link if you plan on buying anything on Amazon.com anytime soon. I also got Twitter and Facebook links below. I recommend you check those out as well. So that's enough talking from me, at least for now. You guys take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you later.